Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt, even for a split second, that it was looking back at you? Not just reflecting your face, but peering deep into something hidden, something you couldn't quite put into words? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely change the way you see not only mirrors, but yourself. For centuries, mirrors have held a strange power over human imagination. In countless ancient traditions, they were never treated as mere objects of vanity. They were gateways, portals, mysterious thresholds between what we can touch and the unseen worlds that surround us. And while many have dismissed these beliefs as folklore, Edgar Cayce, the man often called the sleeping prophet, saw something very different. In his profound spiritual readings, he described mirrors not as inanimate surfaces, but as living instruments, sensitive to energy, capable of revealing truths that the naked eye could never grasp. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Cayce believed that when you gaze into a mirror with true spiritual intent, not as a casual glance but as an act of focused presence, you're not just seeing your physical features, you're aligning with a deeper vibration, tapping into an energetic sensitivity that can open hidden doorways. In those moments, the reflection becomes something more. It's a bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between the world of matter and the dimensions of the soul. Has this ever happened to you? You stare for just a little longer than usual, and suddenly, there's a strange feeling, almost as if the surface is shifting. Maybe the expression in your eyes changes without you moving a muscle. Maybe you sense a story behind your own gaze, one that doesn't belong to this moment in time. Cayce taught that mirrors could reveal emotional traits and even karmic patterns, echoes of choices and experiences that have shaped your energy field long before you ever stood before that glass. This isn't superstition dressed up as mysticism. According to Cayce, it's an undeniable part of our spiritual anatomy. The mirror becomes a subtle communicator, reflecting not only what is seen, but also what is felt, hidden aspects of the self that often remain buried in daily life. And in those rare, unguarded moments, something beyond your physical face begins to emerge. A flicker of a truth you might not yet be ready to face. Think about it. How many times have you looked into a mirror and felt that your eyes were telling a different story than your smile? How often have you caught a glimpse of yourself that felt almost foreign, as if another version of you was standing just behind the glass? Cayce believed that these moments weren't random. They were invitations, silent calls from the soul, urging you to look deeper, to acknowledge what lies beneath the surface image. And yet, there's a reason he urged caution. Because if mirrors can act as portals, as energetic conduits, then the act of looking is never neutral. It's an exchange, a meeting point between your vibration and the subtle forces that surround you. That's why Cayce insisted on purity of intention and spiritual readiness before using them for deep reflection. Without it, what you find in the glass might be more than you bargained for. What if the reflection you've trusted all your life has been quietly holding back a hidden truth? What if the surface image is just the beginning? In the next part, we're going to explore exactly how Cayce believed mirrors could be used to access these deeper layers of reality, and what might happen when the veil between worlds begins to thin. If these kinds of insights speak to you, subscribe so we can keep exploring them together. There's something almost hypnotic about holding your gaze in a mirror. The longer you stare, the more the mind starts to wander, and the more the reflection seems to take on a life of its own. Edgar Cayce warned that this simple act, when done without purpose, could awaken unresolved emotions buried deep within, amplifying them until they feel almost tangible. And when that happens, the reflection might shift in unsettling ways. Faces can subtly distort, expressions you never made seem to flicker across your features, and in rare moments, entirely unfamiliar traits can appear. It's as if the mirror becomes a storyteller, whispering tales from parts of yourself you've forgotten, or perhaps never met. For Cayce, this wasn't a parlor trick or an illusion. He believed the mirror could act as a bridge, a meeting place between the visible world and the realms beyond, where spirit and matter overlap. This is why he stressed purity of intention. The way you approach the mirror shapes what it gives back to you. If you step in front of it, carrying anger, fear, or chaos, you might find those energies staring right back. But if you approach with openness and a genuine desire for understanding, the reflection can become a guide, pointing you toward transformation and self-discovery. He described moments, especially in deep meditation, when mirrors seem to open like windows, revealing landscapes not of this world. Smooth glass became a passage, and in its depths he saw symbolic images, faces from other times, and scenes that felt like fragments of hidden truths. These visions, he said, weren't random. They were responses, echoes from a dimension that only reveals itself when you are aligned in spirit and mind. This is where mindset plays an enormous role. What you carry within will influence what comes through. If your thoughts are clouded, the messages may be distorted, much like a radio struggling to find the right frequency. But when you are clear, calm, and receptive, the mirror can reflect more than just the physical. It can reveal the layers of your journey, the decisions that have shaped you, and even the possibilities waiting ahead. Imagine this as standing in a threshold space. Behind you, the life you know, the roles you play, the familiar patterns. Ahead of you, an expanse of unknown territory where the spirit moves freely, untouched by the weight of daily life. The mirror sits between these two realities, a silent witness with the power to show either side, depending on what you are ready to face. For some, these moments can be profound, even life-changing. A single image seen in that reflective surface can trigger a cascade of memories, feelings, or realizations. You might suddenly understand the root of a long-held fear or feel a deep pull toward a path you've been resisting. It's not just about what the eyes see, it's about what the soul recognizes in an instant of clarity. But there's also a hidden risk here. The very same bridge that can guide you toward awakening can also open to places you're not prepared to visit. That's why Cayce's warnings were so persistent. Without clarity of purpose, the mirror might not only reflect your unresolved states, it could magnify them, leaving you feeling disoriented or even drained. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what Cayce described next blurs the line between the mystical and the very fabric of human perception. It's where visions take form and reality itself begins to bend in ways that defy simple explanation. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me." It's strange to think that something as ordinary as a mirror could hold the power to either unlock a revelation or quietly become a silent threat. Edgar Cayce understood this duality well. He saw the mirror as a kind of spiritual crossroad, a place where what you carry inside determines what will greet you on the other side of the reflection. When the soul is balanced, the mirror can act as a key, opening the way to clarity, self-acceptance, and even transformation. But if the spirit is unsettled, weighed down by unresolved emotions or unacknowledged truths, that same surface can reflect back not light, but a warning. He often spoke about moments when the mirror no longer showed the body as others see it, but instead revealed the soul's current state. Sometimes it's subtle, an unusual heaviness in the eyes, a faint tension in the mouth, the kind of small details you wouldn't notice unless you were truly looking. Other times, it's more striking, as though the person staring back at you isn't quite the one you recognize. That's when the experience shifts from simple observation into something far more personal and sometimes unsettling. There's a hidden truth here that most people overlook. The mirror doesn't just display what's visible, it translates energy. Every thought you've had, every decision you've made, every emotion you've carried leaves an imprint in your field. The reflection you see is a blend of your physical appearance and the invisible weight or lightness of your current inner state. This is why even the most carefully crafted expressions can't always hide what's really happening behind the scenes. You might put on a practiced smile, but if your soul is weary, the mirror will betray you. There's a dullness that creeps into the eyes, or a slight collapse in posture, as if the body itself is translating the unspoken. On the other hand, when your spirit is in harmony, the opposite happens. The eyes carry a radiance that know cosmetic, or lighting trick could ever reproduce. It's a glow born from alignment, a quiet signal that the inner and outer worlds are in sync. Cayce described this as one of the most impactful aspects of self-awareness, realizing that the reflection you see is a living feedback loop. Your mindset shapes your energy shapes your presence, and your presence is reflected right back to you. The mirror becomes a silent coach, a truth teller that doesn't flatter or criticize, but simply reveals. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Join the channel and let's keep uncovering the hidden layers of life, one conversation at a time. For some, this awareness can be empowering, sparking a journey of change, shifting priorities, making decisions that align with deeper values, confronting what's been ignored. For others, it can be confronting, because the mirror might show exactly what they've been avoiding. This is why Cayce urged not just casual glances, but intentional moments, with the mirror, paired with honesty and self-compassion. Without that, the reflection can become a place of self-judgment rather than growth. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the way Cayce described the mirror's ability to expose hidden layers of the self leads us into a space where the spiritual and the psychological overlap in surprising ways, where one glance can feel like a revelation, and a simple reflection can become a catalyst for profound change. Put down, I'm also on this path. There are moments when someone stands before a mirror, and without warning, their eyes well up. The tears don't come from vanity or any flaw they've noticed, but from something much deeper, a quiet plea from within, the soul calling out to be seen. It's a cry without sound, an ache for recognition that goes beyond the physical. Edgar Cayce understood this phenomenon as the spirit's way of reminding us that it exists, that it's been waiting patiently behind the noise of daily life for us to finally look and acknowledge its presence. That sudden surge of emotion is not weakness. It's a signal that part of you is longing to return to alignment. Yet, this same mirror can become a trusted companion when the soul is in balance. In those rare moments of spiritual lucidity, the reflection changes. There's a certain radiance, an ease in the eyes that seems to bypass the ordinary rules of appearance. You can't fake it, you can't manufacture it. It's a sparkle that doesn't come from the outer world but from within, a reflection of harmony between body, mind, and spirit. It's as if the mirror becomes a translator for a language only the heart can understand, showing you that you're connected to something far greater than yourself. Cayce emphasized that the mirror itself is never the judge. It doesn't criticize or flatter. It only mirrors what is already there. The meaning we attach to what we see is entirely our own creation. This is why compassion is essential when we face ourselves in that glass. Looking without kindness is like holding up a magnifying lens to every wound and imperfection, forgetting that those marks often tell the story of resilience and survival. When we approach the mirror with compassion, it becomes less of an adversary and more of an ally, an instrument that reflects not only truth, but also the possibility of transformation. In this way, the mirror becomes a space of choice. You can use it to reinforce old patterns of self-criticism, or you can decide to meet your own gaze with curiosity and acceptance. That decision is powerful, because the energy you bring into that moment will shape the message you take away from it. And once you realize this, the act of looking into a mirror shifts from routine to ritual. It's no longer just about adjusting your hair or checking your posture. It becomes an encounter with the essence of who you are right now. When the soul cries out, the mirror offers a chance to listen. When the soul is at peace, the mirror offers a chance to celebrate. And when the soul is in between, searching, evolving, unsure, the mirror becomes a witness to that journey, holding space for every stage without rushing the outcome. It doesn't demand perfection, only presence. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Cayce's understanding of what a reflection can reveal goes beyond personal insight. It touches the hidden mechanics of energy, the way our inner state imprints itself on the world around us, and how that imprint quietly shapes the course of our lives in ways most people never notice. Write in the comments, "I can feel this truth." When Edgar Cayce asked whether we truly see ourselves in the mirror or only the image we choose to present to the world, he wasn't posing a simple philosophical question. He was inviting us to step into one of the most revealing inner confrontations we can have. Most people think they know themselves, but much of that self-image is a carefully curated reflection shaped by years of decisions, defenses, and the subtle need to be accepted. The mirror, in its silent honesty, doesn't participate in that charade. It shows the truth as it is, not as we wish it to be. And if we dare to really look, it will hold that truth in front of us until we decide what to do with it. This is why Cayce saw mirrors as more than reflective glass. He described them as energy receptors, subtle collectors of the vibrations that pass through a space. Every word spoken, every thought charged with emotion, every invisible ripple of human presence leaves a trace. A mirror can silently gather these imprints over time, and when someone stands before it, those stored energies can be reflected back, often without the person realizing why they suddenly feel uneasy or heavy. It's as if the glass remembers the room's emotional history and has no choice but to replay it. He warned that if mirrors are used carelessly, especially in places where emotions run high or intentions are unclear, they can become magnets for unbalanced energies. And in the wrong circumstances, this can open subtle channels for presences we don't fully understand. It's not about fear, but about awareness. Just as we're mindful of the food we eat or the air we breathe, Cayce believed we should also be aware of what our spiritual environment is absorbing and returning to us. That's why in the delicate atmosphere of mediumship or spiritual work, he advised covering mirrors altogether. These moments, when the veil between worlds is thin, carry a heightened sensitivity, not just for the participants, but for the space itself. An uncovered mirror in such a setting could act like an open doorway, allowing impressions, visions, or even entities to move between realms. Sometimes this could cause confusion for the practitioner, blurring messages or drawing in energies not meant to be part of the session. Subscribe if you want more moments like this, deep, reflective, and full of meaning. There's something fascinating about this behind-the-scenes aspect of spiritual practice. The idea that not all tools are neutral in all contexts. A mirror in your bedroom might be harmless most of the time, but in a charged environment, its role can shift dramatically. It reminds us that transformation often depends not only on what we choose to invite into our lives, but also on what we choose to shield ourselves from. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Cayce's observations about how mirrors interact with our emotional and spiritual state lead to a much larger question. How much of what we see in any reflection, whether glass, water, or even the eyes of another person, is shaped by the unseen forces quietly surrounding us? Write in the comments, "I see more than what's on the surface." There's a reason so many ancient traditions, from vastly different cultures, carried the same quiet warning. Do not sleep facing a mirror. For Edgar Cayce, this wasn't just a superstition passed down through time. It was a matter of energetic hygiene. Sleep is a vulnerable state, a nightly journey where the soul loosens its ties to the body and drifts towards subtler realms. In that in-between space, your energetic field is softer, more permeable, and the presence of a mirror can act like an open receiver, amplifying not only your own vibrations, but also those lingering in the room. Cayce observed that during these hours, the mirror doesn't just reflect, it interacts. It can bounce back the unresolved emotions in the space, intensifying feelings that should be released, not magnified. People sleeping in front of mirrors often reported restless nights, vivid and unsettling dreams, or waking with a weight they couldn't explain, as if they had been carrying someone else's energy. For some, the impact was even subtler: gradual mood changes, unexplained irritability, or a dull fatigue that lingered no matter how many hours they rested. He referred to this as a form of energetic contamination. Just as stagnant air can cloud a room, stagnant energy stored and mirrored back can cloud the mind and spirit. And when this happens repeatedly, night after night, it can quietly shape your mindset, influencing decisions, altering your emotional balance, and steering you in directions you might not have chosen otherwise. It's a hidden truth few consider, yet its effects can ripple far beyond the bedroom. This is why Cayce emphasized discernment. A mirror isn't inherently dangerous, It's a tool, and like any tool, its impact depends on how and when it's used. In a meditation space prepared with intention, a mirror can serve as a bridge to deeper awareness, amplifying focus and guiding the mind toward inner clarity. In a charged or unsettled environment, however, that same mirror can amplify dissonance, becoming more of a distraction than a guide. The difference lies in the energy you bring and the environment you create. A peaceful, aligned space allows the mirror to reflect harmony. A cluttered or emotionally heavy space allows it to echo unrest. This is where ancient wisdom meets modern understanding. The awareness that our surroundings are not neutral, and that even seemingly inanimate objects can participate in the story of our well-being. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because Cayce's insight into the relationship between mirrors and our energetic state opens the door to a fascinating question. How much of what we experience as our own inner world is actually shaped by the reflections and impressions we unconsciously absorb from the spaces around us? Write in the comments, energy leaves an imprint. There's a subtle danger in believing that the mirror always tells the truth. Edgar Cayce warned that when the soul is out of balance, burdened by fear, guilt, or unhealed trauma, the reflection can become a distorted version of reality. It's not that the mirror itself lies, but that our perception is filtered through the very emotions and beliefs we carry. In those moments, we don't see ourselves as we truly are. We see ourselves through the lens of our own pain. The mind, with its relentless capacity for self-critique, can project inner wounds onto the glass, turning a neutral reflection into a stage for old narratives. A faint line on the face becomes proof of inadequacy. A shadow in the eyes is mistaken for weakness, and small imperfections grow in significance until they feel like defining features. This is the hidden truth behind so many quiet battles with self-image. The mirror isn't attacking us, it's echoing what we've already decided to believe, and if those beliefs are rooted in shame or fear, the echo can be deafening. Some go the opposite way, creating what Cayce called a vibrational camouflage. They construct a perfected outer image, polished and composed, so convincing that even they begin to mistake it for truth. Behind the scenes, though, the soul feels fragmented, disconnected from the persona on display. It's a survival mechanism, a way of navigating the world without exposing vulnerabilities, but it comes at a cost. The more the camouflage is maintained, the further one drifts from genuine self-recognition. This dissonance between appearance and essence can quietly shape a person's journey. It influences decisions, relationships, and even opportunities, because whether we realize it or not, the energy we carry communicates far more than the surface ever could. People sense the gap between what's presented and what's real, even if they can't articulate it. That unspoken perception can open doors or close them, depending on whether the energy feels aligned or guarded. Cayce saw the mirror as both a risk and a remedy in this context. It could reinforce the illusion, or it could dismantle it, depending on how willing a person was to face what appeared. This is where mindset becomes crucial. Approaching the mirror with the intention to truly see, not to judge, not to perfect, but to witness, can be a first step toward transformation. It shifts the interaction from confrontation to conversation, a dialogue between the self we show the world and the self that longs to be acknowledged. Be part of this journey. Hit subscribe, and let's keep opening new doors together. The impact of that shift is profound. It's not about chasing an idealized image, but about allowing the reflection to become a meeting place for acceptance. In that space, guilt can loosen its hold, fear can lose some of its weight, and the polished mask can begin to crack, not to expose weakness, but to let authenticity breathe again. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when Cayce explored the interplay between distortion, projection, and authenticity, he uncovered something remarkable. The mirror doesn't just reveal who we are in the present, it can become a compass, quietly pointing toward the self we are meant to grow into. Write in the comments, "I choose to see clearly." There's a quiet shift that happens the moment you decide to meet your own gaze without drawing a verdict. The shoulders ease, the breath deepens, and the mirror stops feeling like a tribunal. Edgar Cayce understood this shift as a sacred opening. When you look with acceptance rather than judgment, the spirit is no longer cornered. It's invited. Compassion doesn't excuse what needs healing. It creates the safety for healing to begin. In that softened space, the hidden truth that once felt threatening becomes a message you can finally hear. The mindset changes from, "What's wrong with me?" to, "What is this trying to show me?" And the impact of that single reframing ripples through choices, relationships, and the way you carry yourself through the day. The reflection is the same. Your decisions are not. This is why the mirror can be a teacher or a deceiver, and the deciding factor is intention. If you come to it seeking confirmation of your worst fears, it will gladly play that role, magnifying every perceived flaw until the narrative feels airtight. But if you approach it as an ally in transformation, the glass becomes a mentor that points you toward integration. Behind the scenes, it's reflecting more than features. It's reflecting momentum. Energy follows attention. The questions you ask at the mirror shape the revelations that can arise from it. Ask for perfection, and you'll find reasons to postpone your life. Ask for truth, and you'll be guided toward the next honest step on your journey. Cayce often hinted that this dialogue with the mirror continues when the conscious mind sleeps. In dreams, the rules loosen. Symbols take over. A mirror might show a face that isn't quite yours, a room that shifts, an expression you don't remember making. He believed these were not mere oddities, but coded messages from the soul, repressed memories surfacing, disowned emotions knocking, or even the higher self offering a glimpse of where you're headed if you stay aligned. Dream mirrors are blunt. They don't negotiate with the ego. They show fragmentation when you feel divided, fog when you're avoiding a decision, a clear and luminous reflection when you've stepped into coherence. And because the body is quiet, the message often lands with greater force. You wake with a residual feeling that something important was said, even if the words have evaporated. Treat those nocturnal encounters as you would a trusted mentor's note slipped under the door. Write down the scene, the mood, the first 3 words that come to mind. Notice how the image follows you into the morning, how it tugs at your attention while you make coffee or scroll through your day. This is guidance in motion, the psyche's way of steering you toward integration. And if a dream mirror unsettles you, meet it with the same compassion you're learning in waking life. The discomfort isn't failure, it's information. Your inner world is telling you, with striking honesty, where the next layer of alignment lives. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you begin to pair gentle self-viewing with the symbolic intelligence of dreams, the mirror stops being a surface and becomes a threshold, a living instrument that tracks your evolution in real time, offering quiet revelations that reshape how you move, what you choose, and who you're becoming. Write in the comments, "I choose compassion first." A broken mirror in a dream is rarely just a broken mirror. For Edgar Cayce, it was a stark emblem of fragmentation, a sign that somewhere within, the soul was divided against itself. Each shard carried a different truth, a memory or a feeling that had not yet been brought back into harmony. It's not about bad luck, it's about recognition. The image confronts you with the reality that certain pieces of your inner world are scattered, some hidden behind old pain, others locked away in rooms you haven't dared to enter. It's a silent invitation to begin the journey of gathering those pieces, not to restore the past exactly as it was, but to create a new whole that accepts every part of your story. That's the kind of transformation that reshapes not only how you see yourself, but also how you move through the world. Then there are the dreams where the mirror is fogged, blurred, or clouded. These carry a different weight, a gentle but insistent message that something is blocking your spiritual sight. The reasons vary. Sometimes, it's denial, a refusal to confront a truth you already sense. Other times, it's fear of what might appear if the glass were to clear. Cayce saw this not as a failure, but as a stage in the process, a sign that the self is aware of the work ahead, but hasn't yet built the readiness to face it. The fog is not permanent, it's a threshold, and thresholds, by their nature, ask for preparation before they open. On the opposite end of the spectrum are the luminous mirrors, rare, breathtaking visions that seem to dissolve all barriers between the self and the higher planes. In these dreams, the reflection might glow with an otherworldly light, or reveal landscapes that seem impossibly beautiful, filled with a sense of peace that lingers long after waking. Cayce understood these as moments of profound alignment, where body, mind, and spirit briefly harmonize to the point that the soul can glimpse its own divine nature. They are reminders of what is possible when inner fragmentation is healed, and spiritual vision is clear. These dreams are not just pleasant experiences, they're milestones on the journey, markers that tell you you're moving toward a state where your decisions, your energy, and your purpose are no longer at odds. What's behind the scenes in all of this is a truth that many overlook. The mirror in dreams doesn't just show where you are, it shows where you could be. Broken images call for integration, fogged reflections invite courage, luminous visions celebrate arrival, and each one shapes the mindset you carry into waking life, influencing the way you interact with others, the risks you're willing to take, and the hidden truths you're ready to acknowledge. These are not random symbols. They are deeply personal messages encoded in imagery you can't easily forget. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because when Cayce explored these dream reflections, he wasn't just cataloging symbols, he was mapping the soul's journey through stages of recognition, resistance, and revelation, a process that can change not only how we interpret our dreams, but how we live our days. Write in the comments, "I see the signs clearly." An empty mirror in a dream can be one of the most unsettling images the soul presents. There's no distortion, no alternative face staring back, just absence. Cayce saw this as a symbol of a temporary loss of spiritual identity, a moment when the self is disconnected from its deeper essence. It's not a punishment, it's an invitation. That blank reflection asks a quiet but piercing question. Who are you without the roles, the masks, the history you've clung to? For many, that emptiness is frightening because it strips away the familiar anchors of self-definition. Yet within that blank space lies immense potential. It's a clean canvas, a moment before the next shape emerges, and it carries the promise of rediscovery if you have the courage to step into it. Cayce's understanding of mirrors went beyond the living world. He described a powerful experience that every soul undergoes after death, a life review unlike anything we know here. He compared it to standing before a spiritual mirror so vast, it reflects not just the images of our past, but the vibrations of every choice, every thought, every intention we've ever had. In this reflection, nothing is filtered, nothing is hidden. You feel the impact of your actions as others felt them, not as you justified them. The mirror does not condemn, but it doesn't soften the truth either. It's pure, unvarnished reality, and it offers the soul the kind of clarity that can take lifetimes to build in the physical world. For some spirits, this moment becomes a liberation, confirmation that their journey, while imperfect, was aligned with love, growth, and sincerity. But for others, it becomes a barrier they cannot move past. These are the trapped souls Cayce spoke of, lingering in the reflection, because they cannot accept what they see. They replay scenes in a desperate attempt to rewrite them, only to find that the mirror does not bend to will. It reflects what is, not what we wish had been. This resistance keeps them caught in a loop, unable to take the next step in their journey until acceptance and forgiveness, both for themselves and others, begin to flow. Behind the scenes of this teaching is a profound truth. We all carry a mirror like this within us, even now. We may not see it in such a vivid, all-encompassing way, but moments of deep self-awareness give us flashes of that ultimate reflection. Every honest pause, every uncomfortable recognition, every small moment when we admit to ourselves that we could have acted with more integrity. These are rehearsals for that final review. And the more we engage with these reflections in life, the less likely we are to face them with shock when the time comes. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Cayce's insights into the empty reflection, the life review, and the souls, caught within their own mirrored truth, reveal not just what might await us after death, but how these same dynamics are quietly shaping the way we live right now, in every decision and every moment of self-recognition. Write in the comments, "I face my reflection with honesty." For the souls who have lived with integrity, love, and a sense of alignment, Cayce described the post-death reflection as almost instantaneous in its clarity. There is no resistance, no frantic attempt to reshape the story, only the quiet recognition of a life lived with purpose. For them, the mirror becomes a confirmation rather than a confrontation, a gentle nod from the universe that the journey was in harmony with the soul's deeper calling. They move forward swiftly, unburdened, carrying the light of acceptance into whatever lies beyond. But Cayce's teachings weren't reserved only for what happens after death. He carried these same principles into how we live and rest, especially in the one space most of us consider a sanctuary, the bedroom. He warned that placing a mirror facing the bed could disrupt the soul's rest during sleep. This wasn't superstition, but an understanding of how the spirit partially detaches during the night, entering states of subtle travel or repair. A mirror in direct alignment with that process can act like an open channel, amplifying and reflecting energies, some of which might not belong to you, back into your field. The result can be a rest that is physically complete, but spiritually restless, the kind that leaves you waking with a heaviness you can't quite name. This leads to another layer of Cayce's perspective. Mirrors don't just reflect in the moment, they remember. Over time, they may hold the energetic memory of what has happened in a space. Intense arguments, grief, or joy can leave a trace, an emotional imprint that lingers within the glass. When you stand before that mirror, you aren't just seeing your current self. You might also be interacting with echoes from the past, both yours and those of others who have been in that space. This can be subtle, a shift in mood, a sudden distraction, an unexplainable wave of emotion, or it can be more direct, influencing the tone of your thoughts and even the quality of your dreams. Behind the scenes, this means a mirror is never entirely neutral. It's part of the environment's energetic ecosystem, absorbing, holding, and sometimes replaying the vibrations it encounters. And just as we take care to clear the air in a room or refresh its physical space, Cayce suggested we be mindful of clearing the energetic residue in mirrors. This isn't just about spiritual caution. It's about recognizing how deeply our surroundings shape our inner state. The decisions we make, the clarity we carry, and even the sense of safety we feel in our own home can be influenced by something as seemingly mundane as where a mirror sits and what it has silently witnessed. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because understanding mirrors as keepers of both present and past energy opens an entirely different conversation about how we interact with the spaces we inhabit, and how those unseen influences may be shaping our thoughts, our rest, and the direction of our personal journey without us even realizing it. Write in the comments, "My space holds my peace." There are those who wake in the still hours of the night with an unshakable sensation. They are not alone. The shadows in the room seem denser, the silence heavier, and the faint outline of a mirror nearby feels like more than just a reflective surface. Cayce acknowledged these reports without dismissing them as imagination. He understood that mirrors can act as subtle amplifiers for presence, sometimes echoing energies or even revealing impressions of entities that linger at the edges of perception. Whether these presences are remnants of past emotional events, wandering spirits, or projections of our own subconscious fears, the effect is the same. The room no longer feels like a sanctuary. For this reason, he often advised the simple but powerful act of covering mirrors at night. This was not about superstition, but about creating an energetic boundary. Draping a light cloth over the surface serves as both a symbolic and practical gesture, signaling to the subconscious, and to any subtle presence, that the space is closed for the night. The act shifts the room's vibration, turning it inward and inviting rest without interference. It's a quiet ritual of claiming one's space, reinforcing the mindset that peace is not just a hope, but a deliberate choice. This awareness becomes even more crucial when children are involved. Cayce spoke often of the heightened spiritual sensitivity of children under 7, describing their ability to perceive what most adults have long since tuned out. For them, a mirror isn't just a playful prop or a means to mimic expressions. it can be a portal through which they glimpse energies, shapes, or figures invisible to others. Some children laugh at these visions, feeling curiosity rather than fear, while others become uneasy, sensing something they cannot explain. Behind the scenes of these moments is a profound truth about early life. The young soul is still in the process of anchoring fully into the physical experience. Their perception is fluid, still attuned to the subtler layers of existence. This makes them both wonderfully open and uniquely vulnerable. Mirrors, in their environment, can magnify this connection, sometimes bringing comfort, other times overwhelming their still-forming sense of self. For parents or caregivers, Cayce's guidance was rooted in mindful decision-making. Mirrors in play areas or bedrooms should be considered with intention, and their placement or use adjusted according to the child's reactions. The goal isn't to instill fear, but to create a setting that supports the child's natural journey toward balance. A peaceful, energetically clear space allows their innate sensitivity to become a gift rather than a burden, shaping their mindset toward trust rather than apprehension. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because Cayce's insights into the connection between mirrors, subtle presences, and the sensitivity of young souls open a wider conversation about how early experiences with the unseen can influence not only childhood, but the entire trajectory of a person's spiritual and emotional development. Write in the comments, "I protect the peace of my space." Cayce's caution about keeping mirrors away from children's sleeping and play areas was more than a matter of superstition. It was an act of stewardship over a developing soul. In those early years, a child's energy is still forming its protective layers, still learning to anchor itself firmly in the physical world. A mirror in the wrong place could amplify the constant stream of impressions they naturally receive, making rest less restorative and play less grounded. By removing mirrors from these intimate spaces, you're not taking away curiosity. You're creating an environment where their inner world can unfold without unnecessary interference. But Cayce's perspective on mirrors wasn't solely about avoiding risk. He saw them as potential gateways to transformation when used with purpose and respect. In meditation, a mirror could become a profound tool for self-revelation. Sitting before it in stillness, fixing your gaze into your own eyes, and quieting the mind opens the possibility of meeting something beyond the physical, your higher self. This part of you isn't concerned with the surface or the fleeting. It holds the blueprint of who you truly are, and the wisdom to guide your journey forward. In those rare moments of alignment, the mirror stops being a passive surface and becomes a living bridge between your present state and the truth that has been with you all along. To approach a mirror in this way requires more than just the intention to look. It calls for creating the right conditions. Cayce often described sacred mirror practices as a form of energetic preparation. Lighting a white candle doesn't just illuminate the space, it signals your mind and spirit to shift into a receptive state. Soft, intentional music can calm the nervous system, allowing your awareness to deepen. A whispered prayer or mantra creates an energetic container, inviting guidance while establishing protection. In this atmosphere, the mirror is no longer part of the ordinary world. It is consecrated, tuned to reflect not just your image, but the vibration of your inner truth. Behind the scenes, this is about more than ritual. It's about mindset. Approaching the mirror as a sacred instrument changes how you experience yourself. It's not vanity, and it's not self-criticism. It's entering into a dialogue with the part of you that exists beyond time and form. That's why these moments can feel so profoundly different. They're not about fixing what's wrong. They're about remembering what's always been right within you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because Cayce's understanding of sacred mirror work wasn't limited to the individual. He saw it as a practice that could shape the entire energetic atmosphere of a space, influencing not just personal transformation, but the harmony of the environment itself. Write in the comments, "I see with inner clarity." For Cayce, the relationship with a mirror was never purely physical. It was energetic, intimate, and ongoing. Just as we would not neglect the cleaning of a window that opens to the outside world, he believed we should not ignore the unseen residue that can gather on the window between the physical and spiritual realms. A mirror, after all, is more than glass and silver backing. It's a surface that interacts with every gaze, every emotion, every moment spent before it. Over time, it can accumulate the subtle imprints of these encounters, holding on to vibrations that may not belong to you. This is why he recommended the ritual of cleansing, using something as simple as salt water, not merely for its physical effect, but for its symbolic and energetic power. Salt has long been considered a purifier, dissolving what is stagnant and clearing the way for renewal. In Cayce's approach, some mirrors deserved a role set apart from the everyday. These were to be dedicated solely for spiritual work, reserved for meditation, self-reflection, or prayer, never mixed with the casual glances of daily routine. The idea was to create a mirror that would carry only the energy you consciously placed into it, a clear channel between your current state and the higher truths you sought to connect with. By setting aside a mirror in this way, you turn it into more than an object. It becomes a trusted companion on the journey inward, one that holds no distraction from the past and no interference from other energies. And then there is the deeper layer, one that Cayce understood better than most. For him, the mirror was a portal of truth, not in the mystical sense of fantastical travel, but in the way it could reflect consciousness itself. What you see there is filtered through the clarity or distortion of your own awareness, making the act of looking not passive, but participatory. The mirror responds to the state you bring into its presence. This is why respect and spiritual protection are not optional. They are essential. To stand before a mirror without intention is to leave the doorway open to whatever might step through. To approach it with awareness, on the other hand, is to decide that what passes through that doorway will serve your growth, not hinder it. Behind the scenes of this teaching is a simple but powerful truth. The mirror is never just showing you your face. It's showing you the relationship between who you are now and who you have the potential to become. If you meet that image with care, the mirror can help align your inner and outer worlds, revealing not only the self you know, but the one you're still discovering. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because once we understand mirrors as living participants in our energetic and spiritual lives, we can begin to see them not just as objects to be managed, but as allies in the larger work of shaping the space within and around us. Write in the comments, "I honor what the mirror reflects." If you've stayed with me all the way here, you already know this wasn't just about mirrors. It was about seeing yourself, your journey, and even your hidden truths with a little more depth. That's the kind of exploration we do here. So if you want to keep walking this path together, subscribe so you don't miss the next time we open another one of these doors. And if this resonated with you, leave a comment saying, "I'm with you until the end," so I know we're exploring side by side. A like on this video lets me know this conversation mattered to you, and it helps keep more of them coming. There's a video right here that complements this topic beautifully. Click it, and let's continue the journey over there.